to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Thursday, March 13th. The Fantasy Footballers back with you. Jason Moore, the Cal Ripken Jr. of the podcast, flew in at 4 a.m. today just to make sure he didn't miss this episode.
Wow, I mean, when it's part two, you can't.
Right.
You know, it's a continuation. You can't just.
Sometimes,
sure.
People don't come back for the sequel because their contract demands are too high.
Yeah,
like
I wanted to
Glover.
talk to you guys about that. I would like more on my contract.
Is Jason the Crispin Glover of the show?
I mean, it makes sense.
Little eccentric.
Yeah, weirdo.
No, Jason legitimately flew out of town. His family's on spring break. Spent 24 hours at a theme park.
Yep.
Not quite 24 hours at the theme park, but a day.
Did Disneyland shut it down?
And then
and I'm here
for good.
Yeah. It's closed, guys. I did the final one.
He's going.
I'm supposed to go next week.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I shut
You
it down.
shut it down.
I did.
Oh man.
Wait, so you?
I believe the bathrooms maybe, but
Where did you stayed till close? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah. That is what.
and then got on a plane at 4
Oh,
a.m.
dude, you are dumb.
And he's here.
Yeah.
So we've got more free agency to talk about. We got a good quick question, a new series. We'll call it What Went Wrong, because not every player drafted with a high ADP worked out for fantasy players last year. And so this one will be very, very interesting to dig into. What went wrong? We'll talk about a certain player today. And there's been some players released, and there's some veterans available. And we've got some players reuniting with former homes and lots to dig into.
Like Mason Rudolph.
The life of a unlikable backup quarterback. Just really, it works out financially. That's where the running back contracts really got to roll their eyes, when you can have the year of your life, Rico Dowdle, and you can go out there and have maybe $3 million guaranteed to you, and then here comes rowing team captain Mason Rudolph.
Dude, I will tell you, the
$8 million to go back to Pittsburgh.
The most excited person about that contract is Myles Garrett.
Is it? Because he gets to see him twice a year?
He's hoping to.
Yeah, well, he might. Right now they have no quarterback because Aaron Rodgers can't make a decision.
Apparently you guys don't remember the incident.
Oh, yeah.
Of course we do.
Of course we remember.
I just didn't know that he really wanted to, re-up that.
You wouldn't?
He's a backup quarterback. He's not going to see him ever again.
Oh, I'll find a way. I'll hit him on the outside.
If you are interested in winning at your draft, go check out the Ultimate Draft Kit. Right now it is the pre-order pricing at ultimatedraftkit.com. Get access to the Dynasty Pass being updated moment by moment with all of these offseason moves, the draft hype. The draft will be here before you know it, and that's part of the UDK Plus. All of that at ultimatedraftkit.com. The quick question of the day, what went wrong? Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid, an early fifth-round fantasy draft pick as the tight end 5, coming off of a tight end 11 season in 16 games played with 91 targets, 73 receptions, 673 yards. Coming into last year, there was tremendous excitement for Dalton Kincaid. Stephon Diggs had departed, and Kincaid was expected to maybe join the ranks of a top-tier fantasy tight end. How did it work out? Tight end 28 in 13 games played, 44 for 448 and 2. What went wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it was very disappointing. He was one of my favorite perceived values, of the kind of 5-pack of tight ends that seemingly could vie for that number one spot, and he didn't. And when you watch the film, he just wasn't good. He was not, special in any way, shape, or form. I know after the season there's been some talk whenever there's a down player.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, they were injured, but that's what it, they've had some talk about he was dealing with some injuries. But, I mean, he was – he caught 80% of his passes as a rookie. And last year it was 59% of the passes. He just wasn't good on film. He wasn't producing. He wasn't breaking tackles. He wasn't getting open the same. He just wasn't that good. And when you watch it, it's like maybe he's not that guy. And Josh Allen's going to spread the ball around. I don't believe it's going to – I don't think he's going to emerge as a primary – certainly not the primary target in this offense.
I would say a realistic expectation for Kincaid is probably around 75 receptions next year. I think that's about where you'd expect him to be if he was healthy through the whole year, which is not – that's not – unless he scores 10 times, that's not going to move the needle for fantasy. He was a player that when you watch the games on a team that didn't have an established number one, you thought he could step into that role, but they took so many deep shots with Kincaid, and none of them worked. That was
a big problem.
He actually ran, I believe, the most go routes, if not the second most go routes.
Only Conklin ran more go routes.
You know how many receiving yards he had on
or
go routes?
Percentage, I should say.
How many receiving yards he had on go routes? I do not.
0.
No.
He ran the second most go routes.
Is that true?
Yes. 0 receiving yards on those routes. So there was the attempt to, and this is where I will agree with you on the fact that, when you make the assumption, look, he wasn't that good. Yeah. I mean, if you never build that rapport with Josh Allen when Mac Hollins is having a game here or there, when Keon Coleman can have a big play, there was no big plays. Like, if you're going to catch 75 passes, I'm cool with that. George Kittle, go make a big play down the field or catch 7 or 8 touchdowns. I don't think that is like that range of outcomes doesn't exist for Kincaid moving forward because, tight ends, it takes a while. But it was a really disappointing year. And fantasy players are going to feel burned and probably not take that shot again.
It's not just he ran a much higher percentage of go routes than tight ends. So 18% of his routes were go routes, a 9 route, where the NFL average for tight ends is just under 12%. So big percentage increase, which would normally that would be very exciting unless for some reason people are not connecting here. And then the other one, he ran a much higher percentage of screens, which is, I mean, those are fine, cheapy PPR points, but
cheapy PPR
for the most part, those are not high value fantasy targets that we care about. Then you add in on top that the Bills, their rush percentage in the red zone is just gone up for 3 straight years. Almost 55% of their plays, like they're running more. And we saw that with James Cook. He had a bajillion touchdowns. The snap percentage going from a 60% snap player to a 43% snap player on the season, and that's in games he played, that does coincide with the narrative that he was maybe hurting more than we knew about the general public.
He did miss 3 games with a knee injury in the middle of the year.
And his ADP is going to be very interesting. So right now in best ball, he's going as the tight end 14. So that leaves some margin.
Kyle Pitts was considerably better than Dalton Kincaid last year as a fantasy option.
Wow.
I want that to be stated.
Oh, no.
That's actually
like Kyle Pitts.
I think that's all you need to say.
Kyle Pitts
full stop
is a full disappointment for fantasy players, and he's still a top 15 tight end with more receptions, more yards, more touchdowns. And you talked about not connecting on the deep throws. I mean, that reminds me of Kyle Pitts. I mean, athletically gifted player. I think Kincaid is a pretty good tight end, and if a team made him a focal point, if that was in the cards, I think he'd be pretty productive. Like, he could have an Engram a season if you want. He's athletically gifted enough to do that, in my opinion, but I don't see that in the cards for the next handful of years.
Yeah, I remember midway through the season talking about if you're in dynasty, trade Dalton Kincaid because I don't think he's that guy, and I don't think it's going to. Yeah,
you had made a declaration.
Yeah, and so at this point, he just doesn't have a lot of value left. You're just hoping something clicks as he gets older. I mean, that was an MVP season from Josh Allen.
Yes.
It's like you can't ask for much more than everything he had opportunity-wise.
And the stats here on tight ends, what season do they break out? And so I have the numbers of players drafted since 2014, and 19% of the guys who have a top 12 season, the first time they do it is year one.
He did that.
He was, yes.
He was tied at 11 year one.
Yeah, so he barely snuck in, but it's like then there's a weird thing of tight ends breaking out in year one and then not coming anywhere close to their ADP in year two. We're going to talk about those numbers later on in the offseason, but it's saying like to have a real breakout, it has to happen in your year one or year two, or your percentage chance goes way, way down that you're going to be a truly viable fantasy tight end. And that, just historically speaking, every player is their own individual case, but if you're going to look back on history,
it's not kind.
It's well, not. It doesn't feel great right now.
What flies in the face of that is just the fact that both these guys, I mean, Pitts and Kincaid both did it in year one, and then they dropped off. Like Pitts has had 3 disappointing years in a row. Like I'm staring this down, Jay. This everlasting debate of rookie tight ends. It's like, are you Hawk and Bowers, or are you Pitts and Kincaid? Right? It, or are you Engram and Njoku, who took forever? Like those are all.
Hawkinson was year 2.
That's 6. Sorry, I didn't even mean Hawk.
Laporta?
I meant Laporta.
Yeah, yes.
Laporta and Bowers. But like those are all names that are all first-round tight ends, and you're probably gonna have 2 more this year.
Yeah,
and so that they can make a big impact, and Pitts and Kincaid did in year one, but it didn't carry on into and neither Laporta in year one, and it didn't carry on into year 2 as well.
Yeah,
but Bowers probably will.
Yeah, but Bowers is his own guy, but it's like Engram broke out year 1, then he was a hit for his ADP the next year. But both, you got Pitts, Laporta, Kincaid were all not just misses; these were big misses where they finished 2 points under what you would have, or more than 2 points under what you would have expected for their draft spot. So it's been a weird thing with tight ends. We don't have a huge sample, obviously, because a breakout in year 1 is not the common. It's more of a season 2. So TBD here on Brock
will he
Bowers.
be someone that is, the normal strategy, right? You take one of the stud tight ends, or you draft him in the last round. Would you take Dalton Kincaid with the last round pick next year as your dart throw?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, if
certainly.
I'm going to punt, then he will be.
I'll take him over
targets.
Probably like a Ferguson style, where I know the baseline is, because I can just see what happens. Maybe Kincaid's more integrated into the offense for a few weeks, but you're not taking him with a guarantee he's your starter, and that's what people were doing last year.
Yeah, I think I'd rather take a shot on a rookie tight end in the late rounds over Kincaid.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. We'll jump right in.
Free Agent Frenzy.
Mike, how would you describe the free agent period in 2025?
I wouldn't. I mean, I know the drop is a frenzy. It's not a. I mean, it's like a gentle breeze.
Not a frenzy.
No, I mean, we all feel it. The free agency period has been slow, and I guess it's just because of the free agents available. It's old wide receivers or running backs. Why would I pay a running back when I can draft one of these 5 or 6 studs, which you could go even deeper. Like a lot of draft people are saying, no, we got 10 plus running backs who are NFL caliber running backs. So why would I pay anybody right now?
I think when T. Higgins was taken off the board as an available free agent this offseason, it took a lot of the wind out of the sails. Because like you said, I don't want to talk about Javonte Williams at all.
Right.
Like that's not a headline maker I want to talk about.
There's no Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, big, awesome offensive weapons changing teams.
Just sadness for Jason because the Rams finally made it official.
Stupids.
Cooper Kupp. He posted his farewell yesterday on social media, if you read that. 8 years as a Los Angeles Ram. Some people wanted to remind, I think, Jason, that he's only a 1,000-yard receiver twice in 8 years, that he had the one superb, outstanding season, obviously, that kind of broke fantasy football and is Super Bowl champion. But I think the debate is he done? Is this kind of, Mike and I were talking yesterday, I think, on the Footcast, briefly, just about the fact it's pretty rare for a team that knows a guy that has been that guy for, Cooper Kupp was the number one receiver for many, many years. When they make that call that we're not bringing you back, it's pretty rare for that guy to go and find success at that same level elsewhere. You might get a Thielen.
Yeah, Adam Thielen was the name that immediately popped up to me. It feels very, very similar. They didn't want to pay him. He was older.
Thielen. It could be. That would be the best possible outcome. Would be a Thielen type of change.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of players too. Whether it's Julio or Hopkins, where the team has made it, or Allen Robinson, where teams have made the decision that you're done, and you're done. Amari Cooper.
The thing that will be incredibly difficult to reconcile is when Cooper Kupp first came back from his ankle injury. So that we're talking weeks 8 through 14. Both him and Puka are on the field. I mean, over that span, Cooper Kupp was averaging over 15 points per game in a half-point scoring format. He was the wide receiver 5 in that stretch. And it felt like, oh, all right, Cooper Kupp is back. Then week 15 of the playoffs happens for our fantasy playoffs, and it's a full goose. Like, well, that was weird. How's a player being so productive put up a full zero?
Was that also the game that Puka got kicked out of?
I do not remember that part. I'll check Puka's stats, but then the next week you're like, oh, Cooper Kupp, no problem, under 4 points. I mean, it went the valve was completely turned off. He was no longer a part of what the Rams wanted to do on offense for that stretch, and we're in an impossible situation.
We just saw this.
Oh, please.
Who
did we see it with?
Stephon Diggs. We just saw the identical thing happen with Stephon Diggs in Buffalo.
Yeah.
He was your guy,
yes.
your guy. The valve was turned off at the end of the season. And it's like, let's get him out of town.
And to be fair, Diggs was very good for the Texans. Obviously got injured and stopped being a Texan. But to start the season, he came out and was very important to the offense. Didn't look washed to me.
I think he was a different player, wouldn't you say? Would you say Diggs was not? He wasn't the tier of.
He was not in his superstar form, but he was still very useful for the Texans.
Here's the question I have for you. This will give us a lay of the land. If 1 is washed,
okay,
and 10 is the MVP season of Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
So 1 through 10. 1 is washed, 10 is premier Cooper Kupp. What number do you think he is at going into next year? What do you think you get with a team?
4.
Oh, you're at 4.
Yeah, I think he's on the downside of the career.
That's pretty low
at this age.
I thought you were going to give him about a 7 or a 6.
No,
that's his heart.
Yeah,
Heart's at 6 or 7.
I love Cooper Kupp, and I just don't like that. I feel like the Rams did him dirty, but I'm not saying that they're wrong.
I think it's a 4 or 5. I think I'd be a 4 or 5.
I'm at between a 3 and a 4.
Okay, so he can go and help somebody. Odds that you think Cooper Kupp will be a fantasy relevant wide receiver 2 next year?
It entirely depends on where he goes. Right now, I think he would be good in
New England.
No.
With Drake May?
Yeah, I don't
think
love
the
offense.
There won't be enough to go around.
What's the Falcon? You just posted a graphic, I think, up on socials. What is the other team that was mentioned with Cooper Kupp?
Did you say Patriots?
Patriots.
Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle.
Good work, Matt.
Yeah, good work,
Thank
dude.
you for that.
Nice. He spent most of the time finding the button. I could see we switched him to another button, and he was looking for the button the whole time.
Yeah.
Did you find the button? Could you have
so.
answered? There you go.
Good work.
Seattle, what do you think about of those 3 destinations? Put them in order of your favorite.
Jacksonville, New England, Seattle.
So you have Seattle at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, maybe Sam Darnold is leveled up and resurrected his career and is, able to be great. But I think this is a team that wants to get more to the defensive side, more to running the ball, and I don't usually view Sam Darnold as
I'll go Seattle.
exceptional.
I'll go Seattle, New England, Jacksonville.
You like Seattle the best.
I do.
Why?
I just don't think JSN has what it takes to fully – like Brian Thomas Jr. is it, right? And so Kupp is very 2-3 in Jacksonville with a Trevor Lawrence that is leaving question marks. So I guess I just feel like Kupp would be – like that would be his Carolina Thielen destination would be Seattle.
For target volume?
For target volume.
Yeah, I lean Jacksonville at the top because I think he needs a Brian Thomas.
He needs him on the other side.
Yeah,
okay.
I think he needs it. And then
get it.
Yeah, I'll go Pats, I guess, second for upside of the unknown, like of Drake May.
Jason, we were talking on the Footcast yesterday as well, the fact that like sitting out there on the waiver wire right now, on the on free agency, Kupp, Keenan, Diggs. And I was making the comment that like a team could go 1 year on all 3 of the guys and bring them in, and you have a wide receiver room for a year.
The ARP team.
Like the Raiders don't have wideouts, right? It's like you could bring those 3 dudes in. The ARP team?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. I think you bring those 3 in because you're hoping you get about 1.5 receivers. But
if you bring them all in, one of them.
What about the Giants with Malik Neighbors on the other side? If you like the Brian
superstar Darius Slayton.
Right, yeah, and maybe Aaron Rodgers goes there.
I don't.
Yeah, that's a quarterback problem there.
Oh, my gosh, Rodgers. What is this guy doing?
Whatever he wants.
We'll talk about that in a second. We'll take a break. We'll come back with some more news. Before the break, you mentioned your frustration with Aaron Rodgers because, we've got offers on the table from Pittsburgh. It's been reported Pittsburgh's made him an offer. It seems like the Giants have made him an offer or are very interested. And then, he's not making a call. And Adam Schefter comes out, and he seems very –
that was a very funny video.
Seems very frustrated with –
I'm not that mad.
Yeah.
But, like, Adam Schefter, if you've missed it, I'm sure you could find it. But he's talking about Aaron Rodgers making a decision. And Adam Schefter seems personally attacked and – personally frustrated that Aaron Rodgers has not made the decision.
I believe
yet.
he compared making this call on his future home as a quarterback to picking a lunch destination.
It's not that hard.
He's like, you just pick a place to go to lunch and go.
I am in agreement. It is not that hard. If you have an offer from the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants, you go to the Pittsburgh Steelers because you're 40-something years old and you have a year or 2 left. You're not winning a Super Bowl with the Giants. And if you're
maybe you want to live in New York.
Yeah, but you have
because you're not
money.
winning a Super
maybe
Bowl
you already
with the
have a
Steelers
home
either.
in New York.
That still is.
It'll be really interesting if he
gotta
does.
be the Steelers.
If he were to choose the Giants, I think that says what his priority isn't.
You know who would pick teams like this is Kyle. Like if Kyle was on the free agent market, if he thought that all the reporters were waiting for his information, he'd be like, I will hold back that information until you're upset.
Kyle is not here to defend himself.
No, he's not.
But he knows it's true.
Taking a shot anyways. The Broncos, they have signed their joker tight end, Evan Engram, 2-year deal. Just 30 years old. Last year was a complete bust. I mean, just kind of a lost season.
Yeah, hurt.
But a near record-breaking season the year before. I'm excited about this. I think Denver is right there. I mean, I love Bo Nix. I think this is a huge move for the offense. I think Mike, you said it yesterday, it frees them up to be a focus on maybe running back or other positions in the draft where they had been rumored around the rookie tight ends. They've been looking for a Joker-style tight end for a while, somebody that can go out and be versatile and run routes and take screen passes and be a red zone presence. And I think Engram does enough of those things. And then their defense is getting stronger. Weren't they the home of Mr. Greenlaw? Isn't Greenlaw a Denver Bronco now?
Yeah, and
Hufanga, yeah. So a couple 49ers landing there as they, kind of get rid of all their players. And so I think Denver is like one of my favorite playoff teams next year.
They're going to be fun. I am most interested to hear Jason, because when we were talking about Engram on Tuesday's show, you were pretty OUT on Engram still being a fantasy tight end. Are you good with the spot?
This is about as good of a destination as possible. I think maybe the Chargers would have been slightly better than this for fantasy football, but they don't have outside of Cortland Sutton, they don't really have an established next target. And Sean Payton wants to use a tight end more, but he just hasn't had, he's had Adam Troutman, who's not,
Yeah.
Watch it.
Yeah, because
I gotta be careful what I say in front of Mike about Adam Troutman. Sensational football player. But for fantasy, this is really good. I mean, I would certainly rather have Evan Engram next year than Dalton Kincaid.
I was going to ask it. Yeah,
that one's easy.
If you're taking a late round selection. Saints re-signed Juwan Johnson, their tight end, to a 3-year deal, $30 million. He's always been
21 guaranteed.
Yeah, he's just always kind of sitting there as a player that has flashes but doesn't seem to be at the level you build an offense around. So I think that's been figured out.
I think that's a fair thing to say. I mean, he was
their leader.
He was second in receptions, and he led the team in receiving yards.
Yeah, but when that number is 548, it tells you a lot about that offense.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson is – I hoped he was going to go to Denver because I think that he is an exciting player should he have got put in the right position. He is – most people don't know who Juwan Johnson is, but he is a good player. He got 21 guaranteed to come back for the Saints. So fantasy-wise, though, it could happen. I would not rule it out because he's had stretches of games, not just like a game here or there. He's had stretches, so he is on the radar as a punt draft option.
Meh.
Fantasy players need to understand that tight ends get a lot of money, and sometimes they're not fantasy relevant tight ends. I mean,
true.
Luke Farrell just got $20 million from the 49ers. You'd be like, who's that? And that's a fair thing to say. But he was a Jags tight end, and that's what Evan Engram was. So he wasn't a fantasy relevant tight end, but they do a lot of work in the run blocking and the versatility of a tight end gets paid for, but the fantasy value of every tight end is very different.
Yeah, and I mean he's going to be going into year 6, and this is with the same team and the same system. He's never been relevant.
You talking about Juwan?
Juwan, yeah.
So he's a top 12 guy in 2022.
Irrelevant.
Ooh.
He had 508 yards
this
that year.
That's 7 touchdowns.
Smacks of little Jaylen Warren under 10 points per
it
game
does.
situation. Rico Dowdle, Mike. 1 year.
Yeah.
Don't let your kids grow up to be running backs. The Panthers signed Rico Dowdle, 1-year deal, 2.75 base. Incentives up to 6. I mean, we're all going to do that, right? But you're not going to hit your incentives behind Chuba.
This isn't worst case scenario. I will say that. I was holding out hope that Rico could get more of a timeshare job where a start. If he goes back to the Cowboys, yeah, they're going to get a rookie in there, but it's like Dowdle will have some starts, I would think. But going to the Panthers, Chuba just got paid. This is Chuba's backfield. However, in terms of high-level insurance running backs, to me, Rico Dowdle will be way up there because if Chuba goes down with the run scheme, with the offensive line, and with Rico Dowdle's just the way that he runs, I think this is a sensational signing for the Carolina Panthers. Like Dowdle would do work if he were given the job.
He is going to get paid a similar base salary as Javonte Williams, which the Cowboys paid $3 million base, but the incentives are double. So I want people to understand. Like everyone's like, oh, why would you not re-sign Dowdle versus Javonte? There's so many variables. Dowdle might not have been as content to be
we don't know the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, if they've said, hey, we're probably drafting a rookie and you're not going to be in contention for a starting. I mean, you don't know, and it's double the incentive money. And so, yeah, Rico Dowdle leaves town, and I don't know, probably just a depth piece
If
there
you have
in Carolina.
talking dynasty, if you have Chuba, what are you willing to send over to try and get Rico?
Not a lot.
Not much at all. I think if Chuba goes down, Rico is not a star here for the Panthers unless the offense, if Bryce Young takes another step forward and becomes a great quarterback, then it would be far more exciting. But I don't view
Bryce
the Panthers.
wasn't that last
I'd
year.
be more excited.
And Chuba was great.
I would have been
But I think Chuba is
great.
Yes, exactly. That's the
Yeah,
difference.
Rico I would have preferred to stay in Dallas, because then if the rookie doesn't work out, Rico's pathway to those top 10 finishes is there. I feel less confident with that in Carolina because they're not as good of an offense.
But Carolina, 9th in EPA per rush, and yes, Chuba's part of that, but 7th in Pro Football Focus run blocking grades for the this is an offensive line. Rico last year was 9th in success rate for rushing. He was one of 5 running backs to gain 5 or more yards on over 40% of his rushing attempts. I don't get the Rico slander. He was not an elite. He's not Bijan, but there's 4 teams who have a Bijan type running back.
I would say that his 1-year contract with $2.75 million tells you what we think about Rico Dowdle.
Yeah.
It's not slander. It's the market. If teams wanted Rico, he would have gotten a deal. I mean, do you think he's better than Najee Harris? Because he didn't get nearly the money that Najee got. Do you think he's better than Javonte? He didn't.
Yes,
they didn't bring him back.
I think he's for sure better than Javonte.
So we're not trying to be intentionally anti-Rico. We're just telling you what he got paid and where he's going. It's a 1-year deal to be a backup.
I also think you bring up a good point. If you're in a dynasty league and you've got Chuba, rookie draft season is coming up, and during that time, third rounders, they will be so valuable because people will want whatever name is dropping in a draft. They're not actually valuable. Your third round rookie picks. So that's something I would trade for Rico to get
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Of I'm going to be on the side of, if you're insuring in Dynasty, insuring Chuba is a smart thing to do, and it will be cheap. And if Chuba goes down, Rico will be a top 24 weekly type of a starter.
Panthers wide receiver Adam Thielen will return in 2025.
Yes!
I was waiting for it.
I'm back.
Yeah, he is, and he's 34, right?
I don't know.
Aaron Rodgers officially released, so he can go. He can go somewhere else after $49 million in dead money.
Dude,
$49 million in dead money. I love that. I saw someone posting just the reality that a couple years ago you had a quarterback play so bad that a team was willing to cut him and take on, what was it, $60 million dead cap for Russell Wilson.
Right.
And then the Steelers are like, give me that. And now the Jets are paying $49 million in dead cap to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, and the Steelers are like, give me that.
Because they have Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, the Steelers they're scrambling. They're dealing with remember the Colts, Wentz, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers era. The Ravens signed DeAndre Hopkins to a 1-year deal. It's me, DeAndre. I don't care at all. DeAndre Hopkins didn't matter in Kansas City, and he's not going to matter a year older in Baltimore at all. This is a headline maker. This is cool. You got a veteran. I mean, who was it? Des Bryant that went and played in Baltimore?
Baltimore soaks up all the
Julio. Didn't he play in Baltimore?
Was he there?
I think he was.
For a brief. OBJ was there.
Maybe it was OBJ. I was thinking about. Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, this is good. It makes sense for all parties. DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think will be relevant for fantasy, but this is good for the actual Ravens.
So Julio did not play for Baltimore, but I did come across a 2022 article in the offseason that was like Ravens' top landing spot for Julio Jones and T.Y. Hilton. So at this stage of the career, when you're in the T.Y. Hilton leaving Indianapolis part of your career, Baltimore's the home.
Were you thinking of – so, yeah, Dez was there. Beckham was there. Steve Smith was there for a couple years.
D-Jax was there.
And Anquan.
Yep.
Anquan spent some of his
30s
in Baltimore.
If you're 32, you should call Baltimore. And, yeah. So if you're 40 and a quarterback, you should call Pittsburgh. If you're 30-plus and a wide receiver, call Baltimore in this division. But, yeah, Hopkins, he'll probably have a couple games that he catches some touchdowns and gets some first downs, and there you go. Demarcus Robinson, 49ers picked up Demarcus Robinson on a 2-year deal from the Rams.
I mean, look, probably starting wide receiver Demarcus Robinson.
It's possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, who else?
No Debo, no Ayuk.
Yeah, Pearsall and Jennings will be.
Yeah, but while Ayuk is recovering, Robinson is going to be a starter.
As a wide receiver 3?
Yeah.
Mac Jones, 2-year deal with the 49ers as they complete the full circle of, ooh, we're moving up to take Mac Jones. Just kidding, it's Trey Lance. Just kidding, we're going to get Mac Jones too later.
They don't want, like, the Steelers. I don't know. I don't think Mac Jones is an answer for anything, but if you're just scrambling to get a starting quarterback who might be able to win a couple games for you, how do you not look at Mac Jones?
Why pay Mason Rudolph $8 million?
Yeah,
when you could pay Mac Jones $7 million.
Well, I mean, they're both backup quarterback contracts. That and bringing back Mason Rudolph, obviously, this is a player they're familiar with. They know how he is in the locker room, and they obviously liked it because they chose to bring him back. But
you're right. I'm shaking my head because
they were backed into a corner.
Mason Rudolph.
But Mac Jones being with the 49ers is it's so funny to me because there were all the rumors about, like, Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. That was who, they actually moved up for and then changed and pivoted to Trey Lance. And now the fact that the 49ers signed Mac Jones makes you go, maybe they had regrets.
Well, they still have to – I mean, all these players leaving, they've got to pay a quarterback now.
Yeah, they're burning it down.
They got to pay Brock Purdy, or they have to – I mean, they don't technically have to pay him this year, right?
Correct. He's under contract.
And he's going to want –
That would be brutal.
Well, yeah, I mean, it says a lot to your team and future free agents and things like that.
The problem is the justification for paying Brock Purdy is the deals that Tua – Lawrence have gotten, which are outrageous.
Yeah.
And so then you pay let me just play you pay him $55 million a year.
Oh my goodness.
You pay Brock Purdy that money. You come out and you're retooling because you've lost 8 to 10 players that are fundamental to your offense, and you go 7-10. You think you're coming in? You think next offseason we're all feeling like Brock Purdy's worth the $55 million?
I think that will depend on how he plays. If they win fewer games, but Brock is playing well, I think we'll give him some grace. They are still the highest Super Bowl odds for the division. The 49ers post dropping all of their players.
They're just
really
they're just taking suckers'
Not the
money.
Rams?
Yeah, I'd go on the Rams.
That's
I was
genuinely
I was super
shocking
surprised.
to
Yeah,
me. So, you're saying not NFC, but just
NFC West
out of the West. Well, I wouldn't have put Seattle in there, and I wouldn't have put Arizona in there. So I guess it would have been between.
Someone's got to win.
I would have put the Rams in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We got some more signings to talk about, things to debate. The Steelers signed Kenny Gainwell. The Colts signed Khalil Herbert. The Eagles signed A.J. Dillon. And the Bills re-signed Ty Johnson, who kept showing up in fantasy football towards the end of the year. That run-heavy offense. Any comments on those backup buddies?
Nope. Ty Johnson's a guy that every once in a while, if you're really desperate, you could throw in there. But there's other guys will be probably insurance. I guess the Kenny Gainwell one is, what is that? What is the Steelers running back room going to actually look like? Are they willing to turn over, go back to the old Tomlin system of one back with Jaylen Warren? I don't know that that's the case. So maybe Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, I also
did you sign A.J. Dillon in Dynasty?
Did I get him?
Did you sign him, Mike? You can't quit these guys.
Dude, you gotta.
You chilling?
There is no chill. This is always grinding the wire, boys.
Of all those backup jobs, I would say Khalil Herbert for fantasy would be the one that I would be most interested in because, like, the Ty Johnson, he's going to be involved, but that's a three-headed timeshare.
Yeah.
And, whereas I feel like in Indianapolis, you've got Jonathan Taylor who has, a rich injury history.
Yeah, it's very wealthy. And injuries.
So if he, if he misses time, that's a good spot for an insurance back.
Kyle Juszczyk also meeting with the Steelers. Just so you
let's go, Juice.
So you know, Juice with another opportunity potentially. We had some other signings. Mike Williams, we're back, baby. 1-year deal with the Chargers. He's only 30. Feels like 40.
Oh my gosh, he feels like he retired 4 years ago.
It's a place, a quarterback he's familiar with, right? We could get Mike Williams back there. He could do something.
Yeah.
If they don't add,
another
Mike Williams
year
will be relevant.
Post his ACL as well, so that's good.
MVS 1-year deal with the Seahawks. Cardinals re-sign Zay Jones. Dolphins Nick Westbrook-Akine, where he can go score a touchdown, 1 pass a game. Van Jefferson 1-year deal with the Titans. KJ Osborne to the Commanders. Back to the Commanders. Mariota back to the Commanders.
This is what you were talking about, Mike.
I know. I just felt like I was like people were turning off the podcast as I read those names.
This is not a frenzy.
That's not a frenzy.
This is the light breeze, but also it smells like sewer breeze. You know what I mean? This isn't like an ocean breeze where you're, I love that smell. This is
you're
kind of
going
like
to
salty dog.
You're going to the Blockbuster movie, and they just keep playing the trailers.
Yeah,
they never stop the trailer. They never put the movie on.
You're looking up, and you're like, who am I downwind of right now?
Like, looking at who's left.
Yeah, let's talk about them, because speculating on them is more interesting.
There's still interesting names. I mean, especially
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
Keenan Allen.
Amari Cooper, which the problem with this list is they're interesting names because they once upon a time were top-tier NFL players, and now are they anywhere close? But like J.K. Dobbins, I think his signing is still – it would be interesting when it comes through.
Yeah, Nick Chubb is very interesting to me.
Man, Nick Chubb, can he ever make it back?
Probably not.
That's
probably not. And
Nick
these
Chubb.
are some of the reasons why these signings haven't happened is that we're entering the tier of free agents where you might want to see what happens in the draft, or you might want to build a game plan around.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Like Keenan Allen probably doesn't want to go to camp.
That's a fair point. He might just chill and wait for someone to need him in the summer.
Is he in bulking season right now? Is he back?
Didn't we have that last year?
Yeah, last year he was bulking up, man.
We had fat Keenan Allen, and everyone was so worried.
If you like logged into a fantasy league that had shut down back in like 2019, and you logged back in to see what your roster was, it would say Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Russell Wilson at quarterback. These are the free agents left. It's the 2019 fantasy extravaganza. So, I'm the most interested at seeing where Cooper Kupp goes.
Yeah,
a wide receiver. Of these names. But I'm not excited about. Maybe J.K. Dobbins if it was a completely like if J.K. Dobbins goes to the Giants.
Okay.
Do you care? Is that a place you care? Or do the Raiders?
The Raiders, I do.
The Raiders, I would care more.
Or do you not care about either until the draft happens because he just doesn't profile as toting the rock.
The fact that we are this far away from the opening of free agency and the opening of the league year is concerning for all those running backs. Of starting jobs there's very few available, and I think these guys it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I agree. So that is the remaining lowercase frenzy.
Thank goodness.
for the Foot Clan.
I flew back for this?
Yeah, I told you, you're dumb.
Yeah, I mean, next week we have Trending or Ending. We've got Liar Liar. We got a mailbag, and you'll get a bonus episode, a bonus mailbag show at jointhefoot.com if you want to check that out. Otherwise, that is going to do it. That is going to do it. Cooper Kupp, let me know where you're headed. Aaron Rodgers, make a decision. Talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.